First in the spotlight tonight is Ewan Thomas, a freelance science editor from Nottinghamshire. His specialist subject, the infamous Bodyline Ashes series. Next, Peter Russell, a retired local government officer from Glasgow, on the cookery writer Elizabeth David. Mike Foden is a retired nurse from Newcastle upon Tyne. He's answering questions on the actor Will Hay. David Greenwood, a programme manager from Surrey. His subject, British Admirals of the Napoleonic Wars. And Hazel Humphries, a data analyst from Essex, on Mary Shelley. And welcome to Mastermind with me, John Humphreys. This really is television's toughest quiz. No conferring, no team members to chip in. They're on their own. Just one contender and the clock. 90 seconds on their specialist subject and 2 minutes of general knowledge. And the prize tonight, the last place in the grand final. So let's have our first contender, please. And your name is?
Ewan Thomas.
Your occupation?
Freelance science editor.
And your specialist subject?
The Bodyline series.
The Bodyline series in 90 seconds. Here we go. The Bodyline tour of 1932-33 was so called because of England's bowling tactics against Australia. Douglas Jardine captained England for all 5 test matches. Who captained Australia?
Bill Woodfull.
Yeah, Bodyline was a tactic devised by Jardine to limit the scoring of Australia's best batsman, Donald Bradman, by bowling at his body rather than at the stumps. What other less controversial name was given to this tactic?
Fast leg theory.
Yeah. In early 1933, the first cable sent from the Australian Cricket Board to the MCC stated that bodyline bowling was unsportsmanlike and unless it stopped, friendly relations could be upset. On which date was it sent?
The 18th of January 1933.
Yes. Which former England captain was the MCC's senior tour manager?
Plumorner.
Yep. At the start of their second innings of the first Test match, how many runs did England need to win the match?
Sorry, repeat that.
At the start of their second innings of the first Test, how many runs did England need to win the match?
164.
No, just 1. Who scored the first century of the series with 187 not out in the first Test match at Sydney?
Sutcliffe.
Stan McCabe. During which Test did Bill Woodfull say to Plum Warner, there are 2 teams out there, one is trying to play cricket, the other is not?
Third Test.
Yes, or Adelaide. Woodfull was one of the 2 Australian batsmen to be struck by the ball during the Adelaide Test when he was hit on the chest. Who was the second? He retired hurt after taking a blow on the head that fractured his skull.
Oldfield.
Yep. Following Oldfield's injury, which teammate acted as Australia's substitute wicketkeeper during England's second innings at Adelaide?
Richardson.
Yes. Which venue hosted the Test match that started in 32 and ended in 1933?
Melbourne.
Yes, it was indeed. No passes, Ewan. You have 8 points. And our next contender, please. And your name is?
Peter Russell.
Your occupation?
Retired local government officer.
And your specialist subject?
Life and work of Elizabeth David.
Elizabeth David in 90 seconds. Elizabeth David was a cookery writer who introduced Mediterranean food to post-war Britain. What was the name of the elderly travel writer she met in Antibes in the winter of 1939-40? He became her mentor and helped to inspire her love of the Mediterranean.
Norman Douglas.
Yes. What title associated with travel and transport did the publisher John Lehman want to give to David's first book? It was eventually published as A Book of Mediterranean Food.
Voyager.
No, the Blue Train cookery book. In her introduction to summer cooking, David complains that a frozen vegetable has become the almost obligatory accompaniment to every meal. Which one?
Peas.
Yeah. Which photographer illustrated David's first article for Vogue when she began writing regularly for the magazine in 1956? They went on to collaborate on many other projects.
Anthony Denny.
Correct. What name did David and her sisters give to the sticky fudge made by their nanny? They ate it out of soap dishes.
Stuff.
Yes. In which street behind Sloane Square was Elizabeth David's shop, opened in November 1965?
Bourne Street.
Yep. In summer cooking, what herb does David say the English use with vegetables such as new potatoes and peas, which is viewed by the French as another sign of English barbarism?
Mint.
Yep. What was the name of David's lover of many years to whom she dedicated French provincial cooking?
Peter Higgins.
Yes, in a book of Mediterranean food, David says that the author Théophile Gautier described a particular soup as hell broth that a dog of any breeding would refuse to sully its nose with. Which soup?
Gazpacho.
Yes, for which new magazine launched in March 65 did David write articles? It was subtitled A New Kind of Magazine for the New Kind of Woman. Take a guess. No, it wasn't that. It was Nova magazine. Yeah. Peter, no passes. You've also got 8 points. And our next contender, please. And your name is?
Mike Foden.
Your occupation?
Retired nurse.
And your specialist subject?
The life and work of Will Hay.
Will Hay, in 90 seconds. Here we go. Will Hay was a comedian and actor. What was the name of his first stage act, a solo musical sketch as a schoolmaster based on stories told to him by his sister?
Fourth form at St Michael's.
No, Ben Down. During the First World War, Hay starred in the revues Nosey Nose and Moonstruck as a member of a well-known performing troupe. What was it called?
Fred Carnot.
Yes, in Hay's Schoolmaster Act. What is the schoolboy's answer to Hay's question of who was Noah's wife?
Joan of Arc.
Yes. Which future member of the Carry On team appears in a number of Hay films as a school swot, an early example being Septimus in Good Morning Boys?
Charles Hawtrey.
Yes, Hay's first feature-length film, released in 1934, was based on Pinero's 1885 farce, The Magistrate. What's the film called?
Those were the days.
It was. In 1925, Hay made the first of his 4 Royal Variety performances. At which theatre in Leicester Square was it?
Her Majesty's.
No, the Alhambra. Hay was a much-respected amateur astronomer. What's the title of the book he wrote on the subject, published in 1935?
Through My Telescope.
Correct. What medical condition prevented Will from joining the army on the outbreak of the First World War? He described it as a real kick up the backside.
Bronchitis.
No hemorrhoids. Hay was fluent in several languages, and before embarking on a full-time career in entertainment, he worked as an interpreter from 1907 to 1909. Which association was this for?
Pass.
Which studios did Hay sign to after making several films for Gainsborough Pictures? His first film for them was The Ghost of St Michael's, released in 1941.
Ealing.
Yep. Hay's character in Old Bones of the River works for the Teaching and Welfare Institute for the Reform of Pagans, or TWERP. What is the character's name?
Cutlet.
No, it was Tibbets, Professor Benjamin Tibbets, to be exact. And your pass, he worked as an interpreter for the Calico Printers Association Limited. Mike, you've scored 6 points. And our next contender, please. And your name is?
David Greenwood.
Your occupation?
Programme Manager.
And your chosen subject?
British Admirals of the Napoleonic Wars.
British Admirals of the Napoleonic Wars. Here we go. Many admirals served in the Royal Navy during the Napoleonic Wars. The best known is Horatio Nelson, who was promoted to Rear Admiral shortly after a battle of 1797 when he boarded the San Nicolas and then the San Joseph. Which battle?
Cape St Vincent.
Yes. Which French port was occupied in August 1793 by a British fleet under Lord Hood at the invitation of Royalist supporters?
Toulon.
Yep. Sir John Duckworth was in command at the Battle of the 6th of February, 1806, where a French squadron was defeated. Which battle?
San Domingo.
Correct. He was Nelson's second in command at the Battle of the Nile and commanded at the 2 battles of Algeciras in July 1801.
Saumarez.
Yes. Who commanded HMS Superb during the night action at the second Battle of Algeciras in 1801?
Keats.
Yes. Which admiral was the author of the code using signal flags, which was most famously used for the signal, "England expects that every man will do his duty"?
Popham.
Yep. The North Sea Fleet, commanded by Adam Duncan, blockaded the Dutch fleet for a lengthy period between 1795 and 97. He was supported for a time by 12 ships of the line and 6 frigates from which nation?
Russia.
Yes. In 1798, which officer felt that he'd been passed over for an appointment in favour of the more junior Nelson and, as a result, challenged the Earl of St Vincent to a duel?
Sir John Ord.
Yes, Cuthbert Collingwood took over command from a wounded admiral on board HMS Barfleur during the Battle of the glorious 1st of June in 1794. Which admiral?
Pasley.
No, Bowyer. At the Battle of Trafalgar, Nelson was fatally wounded on board HMS Victory by a sharpshooter in the rigging of a French 74-gun ship. What was the name of the French vessel?
The Redoutable.
Yes, who served as Commander-in-Chief of the East Indies Station from 1794 till 1805 when he retired from the service?
Peter Rainier.
Is correct. No passes, David. You've got 10 points. And our final contender, please. And your name is?
Hazel Humphries,
Your occupation?
data analyst.
And your chosen subject?
The life and works of Mary Shelley.
Mary Shelley, in 90 seconds. Here we go. Mary Shelley wrote her most famous novel, Frankenstein, when she was just 19, first published in 1818. What was its alternative title?
Or the modern Prometheus.
Yes, in which London churchyard was the grave of Mary's mother, Mary Wollstonecraft, where Mary and the romantic poet Percy Bysshe Shelley often met during their courtship before they eloped to the continent?
Old St Pancras.
Yes, what is the name of the narrator and eponymous character of Mary's futuristic novel, The Last Man, set in the 21st century?
Lionel Verney.
Yep. When Mary eloped with Percy Shelley in July 1814, she was accompanied by her stepsister. What name was the stepsister known by?
Claire Claremont.
Yep. Mary contributed many biographical essays on the lives of eminent writers and scientists for the Cabinet Cyclopedia, published in the 1830s. Who edited the work?
Reverend Dionysius Lardner.
Yes, an early literary work, traditionally credited in part to Mary when she was about 10 or 11, is a comic poem based on a 5-stanza song by Charles Dibdin. What's its title?
Pass.
From which work did Mary take the epitaph to Frankenstein in the original edition? Did I request thee, maker, from my clay to mould me man? Did I solicit thee from darkness to promote me?
Paradise Lost.
Yes. What was the name of the Italian villa in San Terenzo where Mary had a near-fatal miscarriage in June 1822?
Villa Magni.
Yes. What name does Mary give to the little village on the southern coast of Cornwall where her last novel, Faulkner, opens?
Pass.
When Percy drowned in a boat off the Italian coast in July 1822, one of Mary's friends also lost her husband, Edward, in the accident. What was the friend's name?
Jane Williams.
Correct. In Mary's novel Lodore, who acts as Lord Lodore's second in the fatal duel in which the Lord is killed?
Pass.
What is the title of Mary's poem, first published in 1831, that begins, "This morn thy gallant bark, love, sailed on a sunny sea"?
The Boat.
Reasonable guess, but no. A dirge is what it was actually called. 3 passes, Hazel. Edward Villiers acted as Lodore's second in that fateful duel. Treby, or Treby, was the little village on the southern coast of Cornwall. And the title of that comic poem was, I hope I pronounced this correctly, Mounseer Nong Stong Paw. Something like that, anyway. Hazel, you've got 8 points. So, a close first round. Let's have a look at the scores. In 5th place, 6 points, Mike Foden. Joint 2nd place, 8 points apiece, Ewan Thomas, Peter Russell and Hazel Humphries. And in 1st place, with 10 points, David Greenwood. So it is the general knowledge round now, and if there's a tie at the end of it, then the number of passes is taken into account, and the person with the fewer passes is the winner. And if they tie on passes as well, there will be a tie break. So let us ask Mike to join us again, please. And you start out with 6 points. Plenty of opportunity to catch up because you have 2 minutes for the general knowledge round. Starting now. Who is referred to as the Napoleon of crime in the Sherlock Holmes stories by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle?
Moriarty.
Yes. What is the most southerly of the Channel Islands, lying some 12 miles from the Cotentin Peninsula of France?
Jersey.
Yep. Podgorica, the capital of Montenegro, was named after a Yugoslav leader in 1946 before reverting to its original name in 92. Which leader?
Tito.
Yep. The American War of Independence took place during the reign of which British king?
George III.
Yep, which gallery bought Martin Creed's work number 227, The Lights Going On and Off, in September 2013. It had originally exhibited it at one of its venues as the winner of the 2001 Turner Prize.
Tate Modern.
Yes, the Tate. Which musical instrument were Paul Tortelier and Mstislav Rostropovich virtuosos?
Cello.
Yep. In which Alfred Hitchcock film does a psychopathic young man suggest an exchange of murders as both he and someone he's just met have a relation they want to be rid of?
Strangers on a Train.
Yes, what Japanese names often used for the poisonous type of blowfish that must be prepared by highly skilled chefs and is considered a great delicacy in Japan?
Lungfish.
No, fugu. Whose 1950 novel A Town Like Alice is set in the Far Eastern theatre of the Second World War?
Never shoot.
Yep, what name of Greek origin is given to Protestant churches that have a collegiate form of government by pastors and lay elders?
Pass.
Who was chairman of the Conservative Party told its annual conference in 2002, you know what some people call us? The Nasty Party.
Cecil Parkinson.
Theresa May. What was the title of Paul Hardcastle's 1985 UK chart-topping single? The song title refers to the supposed average age of American soldiers in the Vietnam War.
19.
Yeah. In which literary trilogy is Barlaman Butterbur the landlord of the Prancing Pony Inn at Brie?
The Lord of the Rings.
Yes. Which garden plant introduced into Europe from Mexico and cultivated for its brightly coloured flowers is named after an 18th century Swedish botanist?
Chrysanthemum.
Dahlia. The ores sphalerite, smithsonite, marmotite and hemimorphite account for nearly all of the world's supply of which metallic element?
Iron.
Zinc. The winners of which race at the Cheltenham Festival include Golden Miller, who won it 5 years in a row from 1932 to 36, Arkle, Desert Orchid and Corto Star.
Gold Cup.
The Gold Cup is correct. Just one pass, that name given to those Protestant churches with a collegiate form of government, Presbyterian. Just that one pass then, Mike. You've a total now of 17 points. And now Ewan again, please. And you, along with others, start out with 8 points. At the moment, 17 is the score to beat with your general knowledge. Here we go. In Indian cuisine, what name of Tamil origin is given to the thin circles of dough fried in oil until they're crisp that are often served as a precursor to a meal?
Poppadoms.
Yeah. Which public school, founded by Henry VI in 1440, stands on the opposite bank of the Thames from Windsor?
Eton.
Yep. Which Disney character is fishing with Mickey Mouse in what is widely regarded as Roy Lichtenstein's first cartoon work, Look, Mickey?
Donald Duck.
Yep. Who plays the title role in the film The English Patient? He turns out not to be English, but Hungarian.
Pass.
Which operatic heroine drank Manzanilla sherry at the inn kept by her friend Lilias Pastia?
Tosca.
Carmen. What nickname was given to the Hughes H-4 Hercules, a giant 8-engine flying boat that made just a single test flight in 1947?
Spruce Goose.
Yeah. Who took out a US patent for the electric telegraph in 1837 and gave his name to the alphabet devised for sending messages by it?
Morse.
Yeah. The yellow flag is a wild variety of which garden plant with showy flowers and sword-shaped leaves?
Iris.
Yeah. In the 2006 film The Queen, Helen McCrory plays the wife of the Prime Minister. What's her name?
Cherry Blair.
Yeah. Which novelist and artist illustrated his own series of novels, Titus Groan, Gormenghast and Titus Alone?
Moving Peak.
Yeah. In Len Deighton's spy trilogy, the first two books are called Berlin Game and Mexico Set. What city is in the title of the third book, Match?
London.
Yep. The album Parallel Lines, which topped the UK charts for 4 weeks in '79, was recorded by which American group?
Pass.
To whom is Martha referring in St. John's Gospel when she says to Jesus, Lord, by this time he stinketh, for he hath been dead 4 days?
Lazarus.
Yeah. 2014, who joined the panel of judges on the BBC talent show The Voice with the Kaiser Chiefs frontman Ricky Wilson? She left the series because of clashes with tour dates.
Pass.
Which Nottingham-based boxer was involved in 2 bouts with George Groves in November 2013 and May 2014 for the IBF and WBA World Super Middleweight titles?
Graham.
No, Froch. Which British city's tramway system finally opened in May 2014? It was 3 years late and several £100 million over budget.
Edinburgh.
Is correct. You had 3 passes. Kylie Minogue joined the panel of judges on The Voice. The band with that album, Parallel Lines, was Blondie. And Ralph Fiennes played the title role in The English Patient. But you've gone into the lead. You have a total now of 19 points. And now, Peter, again, please. And you also start with 8 points, but the score to beat is creeping up. It is now 19, as we said. So here we go with your general knowledge. Which television comedy sketch show included characters such as the used car salesman Swiss Tony, the cliché-ridden football pundit Ron Manager, and the drunken barrister Roly Birkin QC?
The Fast Show.
Yep, the first album to be released on Virgin Records in 1973 was by Mike Oldfield. What was his title?
Tubular Bells.
Yeah, what mixture of caramelized sugar and nuts, often used as a filling for chocolates, is named after a 17th century French marshal whose cook invented it?
Praline.
Yep. Which English city gets its name from the Anglo-Saxon for village of snots people?
Sheffield.
Nottingham. The year 1685 saw the births of Domenico Scarlatti, Johann Sebastian Bach, and another German-born composer who wrote Zadok the Priest. Who was he?
Handel.
Yep. Which television chat show host was attacked by Grace Jones when she was a guest on his programme in 1981? She slapped him after he turned his back on her.
Russell Harty.
Yes. W is for Wasted is the 23rd novel in the Alphabet crime series by Sue Grafton. What's the name of the female Californian private investigator who is the central character in the series?
Caroline Smith.
No, Kinsey Milhone. Which Commonwealth country's external territories include the Cocos or Keeling Islands, Christmas Island and Norfolk Island?
Australia.
Yes, which 17th century Dutch artist reputedly painted Child with Soap Bubble that was stolen from a museum in Draguignan in 1999 and recovered in March 2014?
Vermeer.
No, Rembrandt. Which novel by the English Quaker Anna Sewell is subtitled The Autobiography of a Horse?
Black Beauty.
Yeah. Who was deputy leader of the Conservative Party from 1975 to 91? He was Margaret Thatcher's first Home Secretary before being elevated to the peerage in 83.
William Whitelaw.
Yep. What charged particle is emitted from an atomic nucleus in the radioactive process known as beta-minus decay?
Proton.
No, electron. Daniel Sturridge scored one of England's 2 goals in their 2014 World Cup final campaign in Brazil. Who scored the other?
Frank Lampard.
Wayne Rooney. Which 1955 Western begins with a one-armed man, John J. Macready, played by Spencer Tracy, getting off an express train in a small town in the desert?
Bad Day at Blackrock.
Yes. What is the common name of trees and shrubs that belong to the genus Salix?
Bay trees.
No, willow. But always worth a guess. Peter, no passes. You have 17 points. And now Hazel again, please. And you too start with 8 points, and 19 is still the score to beat. So, here we go. From which university did the future Duke and Duchess of Cambridge graduate in 2005? Both got upper second class degrees.
St Andrews.
Yes. Who said on climbing the scaffold prior to his execution in 1535, I pray you, Master Lieutenant, see me safe up, and for my coming down, let me shift for myself?
Dick Turpin.
Thomas More. In the Pink Panther films, what's the name of Inspector Clouseau's manservant played by Burt Kwok?
Cato.
Yep. A caterer who was born in Kent in 1798 gives his name to a numbered series of spirit-based cocktails, the first of which he marketed in the early 1840s. What was his name?
Pims.
Yeah. Which filmmaker won the 1999 Turner Prize for his exhibition at the Institute of Contemporary Arts that included Deadpan, a tribute to the silent film star Buster Keaton?
Steve McQueen.
Correct. In which British city is an area known as Cathays Park? It contains government buildings, law courts and the National Museum.
Bristol.
Cardiff. Which strait separates the Cape York Peninsula of northern Australia from the island of New Guinea?
Tasman
The
Strait.
Torres Strait. Which anti-war novel takes its name from a fictional bureaucratic regulation stating that a man must be insane if he willingly flies dangerous combat missions, but asking to be relieved of them proves that he's sane enough to carry on flying?
Catch-22.
Yes. What subtitle was given to Dvorak's Ninth Symphony in E minor, composed in 1893 while he was the director of the National Conservatory of Music of America?
New World.
Yep. Which Jason Donovan hit, taken from the musical Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, was the last UK #1 before Bryan Adams' record-breaking run in 1991?
Any Dream Will Do.
Yes. Langor is a general name for a number of Asian species of which animal?
Cat.
A monkey. What 3-word promise did George Bush Sr. make during the 1988 presidential election campaign when he said he would tell Congress to read my lips?
No more taxes.
No new taxes. From which city did the Grand Départ of the 2014 Tour de France take place?
Paris.
Leeds. In Eastern religion, Maitreya is the next person who will gain a state of enlightenment that will enable him to assume what title?
Buddha.
Yep. Which actor's first starring role was as Ivanhoe in the 1958 television series of the same name? He later went on to play James Bond.
Roger Moore.
Yeah, I see. Worth guessing. No passes, Hazel. You have 17 points. And finally, David again, please. And you start out with 10 points. The score to beat is still 19. So, here we go. General knowledge coming up. Richard Starkey was the original name of which member of the Beatles?
Ringo Starr.
Yep. Which variety of celery is also known as turnip or knob celery because of the bulbous-shaped roots that it's grown for?
Artichoke.
Celeriac. Who composed symphonies nicknamed Paris, Linz and Prague?
Mozart.
Yep. The Gulf of Messina and the Gulf of Laconia are inlets of the Ionian Sea that indent the three southernmost extremities of which Greek peninsula?
Peloponnese.
Yep. What Italian word for dry is used in art for the technique of applying colours to dried plaster rather than the wet plaster used in fresco painting?
Secco.
Yes, in a radio interview in January 2014, who acknowledged that much of his party's manifesto for the 2010 general election was nonsense?
Nick Clegg.
Nigel Farage. Which South Coast resort town has formed part of a unitary authority with the neighbouring town of Brighton since 1997? Together they became a city in the year 2000.
Hove.
Yeah, which British-born film star had her first notable roles as a child actress in Lassie Come Home and National Velvet?
Elizabeth Taylor.
Yes, what's the name of John Wesley's younger brother, whose best-known works include the hymns Love Divine, All Loves Excelling and Hark the Herald Angels Sing?
Charles.
Yep. What disease caused by poor nutrition did the Dutch physician Christian Eichmann cure in chickens in 1897 by feeding them rice rich in vitamin B?
Pellagra.
Berry Berry. The songs Another Suitcase in Another Hall and I'd Be Surprisingly Good for You come from which musical that opened in the West End in 1978?
Evita.
Yes, a French nobleman whose name is the origin of a term meaning to take pleasure in inflicting pain on others, wrote several novels including Justine and Juliet. Who was he?
The Marquis de Sade.
Yes, Grigor Dimitrov became the first male tennis player from his country to reach a Grand Slam semi-final in June 2014. Which country?
Bulgaria.
Yes, which aromatic gum resin that has been valued since ancient times in worship and for embalming has the alternative name olibanum?
Incense.
No, frankincense. The early 1970s television series Budgie starred a former pop singer in the title role. What was his name?
Adam Faith.
Yes, the battle for a French fortified city lasted from February to December 1916 and was among the longest and bloodiest of the First World War. Which city?
Verdun.
Verdun is correct. No passes. David, 22 points. A close contest. Let's have a look at all of the scores. In joint third place, 17 points apiece, Peter Russell, Mike Foden and Hazel Humphries. Second place, 19 points, Ewan Thomas. First place, 22 points, David Greenwood. Which means, of course, that David is tonight's winner. He goes through to the grand final. Congratulations to him. And if you would like to be a contender in the next series, do go to our website, bbc.co.uk/mastermind, and you can follow us on Twitter @MastermindQuiz. Do join us again next time for more Masterminds. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.